Welcome, VBC family. We are so glad to have you at our next give and take session. I am Sherry Davis. I am here with John Edmonds, and John is an instructor and department chair with us at this point. If you're just hopping on, if you're live with us or you're hopping on watching the replay, jump in and tell us where you're watching from, and also tell us how you might know Mr. Edmonds. Did you have a class with him? Did you meet him at a convention sometime, somewhere? So jump in, interact with us. We'd love to hear from you. Ask us any questions. We would be glad to answer those. So with much ado, we're going to jump right in and have Brother Edmonds jump in. We're going to start with your VBC origin story. So you tell us how you came to VBC.
Sure, Sherry. It's great to be with you today. Thanks for inviting me. And all those that are listening or will listen, it's great to be with you today as well. My story at Veritas starts back a long time ago. Back when I was a teenager, I knew that God called me to somehow minister with His Word. And I went to Pensacola Christian College for a pastoral track. I was in a preacher boys class, and people would come by and say, "How many of you feel called to be a pastor?" Guys raise their hand. How many of you pastor raise their hand? Well, I never raised my hand because I never really, I didn't feel called to do that, but I knew that God had called me to minister with His Word in some way. And so, I graduated there, then worked there for 4 years on staff. I was gone for a year, then came back and worked again on staff for 3 years. During those 3 years, I met a young lady who's now my wife, Penny, Penny Odell back in the day, now Penny Edmonds, obviously. And so over the time I was at Pensacola, I got a couple of master's degrees while I was there. I started teaching Bible in 1996 as I transitioned from staff to teaching. And so I taught Bible, a whole bunch of classes over the next several years. I was there until 2009. My wife taught English, I taught Bible, and we often discussed who has the best subject. I said, "Oh, Penny, beyond doubt, Bible is by far the best subject." And she would say, "Oh, no, it's not. English, if they can't know how to talk, if they can't speak English, then they can't read the Bible anyways." And so we had, a good nature ribbing back and forth. God bless us with two girls while we were there. We left in '09. And when we were leaving, the pastor that had been my pastor for 20 years at the campus church, basically, Jim Shuttler, he had a secretary call me and say, "Hey, John, you come out and work with me." And so we went out there and worked with him for 2 years. After 1 year, we started a Bible Institute for people, the congregation, local people in town if they wanted to. Because I really knew that God had called me to minister with His Word. And by this time, although when I was a college student, I had no idea how that was what it would look like. By the time I was now in my life in my 40s, I knew that God had called me to higher education, particularly. And so we started this Bible Institute, and that wasn't long at all. And I thought, "John, you got to get back into college work." And so I talked to Pastor Shetler and said, "Hey, God's moving me back into college work." I had 2 great years in California. Loved where I was at, Santa Maria, still one of my favorite places I've ever lived. Probably my favorite place I've ever lived. Just beautiful place. Great church that I was there at. But then I left there in 2011. I moved to Dallas, Texas to go to Dallas Theological Seminary to work on for the PhD. I had not finished that. I had not even started one by that point in time. And so I moved to Dallas. A long story short, my wife was teaching at a Christian school of a pastor that we had heard preach back at Pensacola. His name was Richard Wallace. And, over the years at Pensacola, I heard many preachers preach. Only two guys that I relieved the service and say, "Hey, Penny, if we ever were not here at Pensacola, that'd be a great preacher to be under." Well, he was one of them. And so when I was going to Dallas Theological, I said, "Hey, isn't that where Richard Wallace is from?" And so Penny said, "Oh, yeah, I think it is." So we looked up, we found where he was at in Flower Mound. And so we went to Flower Mound to go to church there. We lived in Louisville, went to his church. Penny taught at his school. Well, and even longer story cut short, I decided all the transitions moving, I was going to postpone going to Dallas Theological for one semester. During that semester, the school was going through some changes where Penny was at. Penny became the interim principal. They said, "Hey, we need we need somebody to teach English. I said, well, I can teach English. I taught Greek for years at Pensacola, and often when you teach Greek, you also bring in English grammar along the way. So I started teaching English, and through that process, God burned my heart to work at that school for the short term. So I talked to Pastor or Dr. Wallace and said, Penny didn't want to be the full-time principal. She wanted to get back, into teaching. And I said, hey, I'll be your principal if you want me to for, the next few years here. And he said, well, I need at least a 2-year commitment. I said, I'll give you a 3-year commitment. I'll be here that long. The school had been ups and downs with administrators. And so I'll say I'll be for 3 years. Well, in that process, I knew I wasn't there long term. I knew higher ed was where God had called me to. At the end of 3 years, going to the fourth year, the school needed to get recertify their accreditation.
Mhm.
And we had been through ACSI because at the time AACS was not accrediting schools in Texas. But while I was there, they started doing that. And so I know how hard it is for a new principal to come in and try his first year there or her first year there to go through the whole accreditation process. And so I say, I'll stay here for 1 more year. Well, that was of God, really, Sherry, because it was during that next year that Daniel Stevens was coming through the church there. He knew Dr. Wallace. And he knew me. I actually had Daniel as a student at Pensacola back in the
Oh,
early
did you? I don't
2000s.
know if I remembered that. I didn't
Oh yeah,
remember
I
that.
did. I had him in a Greek class. I think it was, I don't know if I remember more than a Greek class. I know I had him in a Greek class. And so yeah, I
Wow.
knew Daniel from back in the day.
Yeah.
And so Daniel comes through. He's going to speak at this school there where I was at, the church. He was traveling through that way. And he got to talking to me about VBC and about the needs of the college. And I said, well, hey, this is my last year here. Dr. Wallace already knows that I'm not going to be here, after this year. And I actually already had contacted some other Bible colleges about the possibility of going there. And so Daniel started talking to me and said, well, one thing we need is we need somebody who has an EDD to come on board here. I said, well, my wife has that. And he said, we also need academic dean. I said, well, hey, I would be willing to do that, teach some and be academic dean. So through that process, we came here to Fredericksburg, Virginia. I just really enjoyed the people here, the opportunity in ministry. I knew Daniel, enjoyed working with him. And so God brought us here. Penny was going to teach full time, be the chair at that time of the ed department because she had the credentials she needed for that. I was to be the academic dean. Well, sure, you know as well as I do that during that year, there were changes for faith where the pastor had resigned. Actually, I came in June of 2016. The only sermon I ever heard the man who was resigning as pastor preach was his going away sermon. Uh,
Oh,
so,
I
so
forgot
I
about that.
wasn't here long at all before that pastor resigned. And I knew how that coming here, Daniel told me, he said the church is probably going to have the pastor he may very well resign in the next, sometime in the next few months. I said, hey, that's not a big deal. I know this is where God has us coming to. And so we came, got plugged in the church and the college, but the transitions at faith, the pastor resigned, the church here looked for another pastor. They eventually called Pastor Kurt Skelly to come, and Daniel felt moved to go back in the pastorate. And
Mhm.
so he, leaves in the spring of 2017. And then um, the board asked me, hey, John, would you be willing to step up as president? At the time, I told the chairman of the board, Pastor Skelly, I told him, hey, I enjoy administration. I don't mind doing it. I do like higher ed. I know God's called, my wife and I both know God's called us to work in higher ed. Her English, me and Bible, the best subject. And so,
Got to
and
sneak it in there
so,
anytime you can,
yeah,
huh?
got to get that in. You're exactly right. You're right, Sherry. And so I told Pastor, I said, I'm not going to be president the rest of my life. My passion is teaching. And so, but I enjoyed, God had me here at Veritas at the right time, transitions we were going through, things we were changing, what my skill set was and things we were doing worked very well. And the whole change that we had gone through from, 2017 till when I, resigned as president 2022. But during the time I'm president, I also start back up with my doctoral work,
Mhm.
start working toward a PhD. I'm not getting any younger, Sherry. I don't think I'm old yet, but I'll be 58 here in a couple of months. And so I thought, I've been taking courses in grad school for a good part of our married life.
Mhm.
Um, and when I was younger, Pensacola asked me to get a doctorate. At that time, it just wasn't going to work to do it, and I didn't. But now I talked to Pastor Skelly and said, "Hey, God's really calling me get back into full-time teaching. That's where my passion, my heart's at." And he said, "Well, I knew that was going to come about sometime." And so I, resigned in November, the 1st of November, 2022. And then I already was in a doctoral program, transitioned into an academic sabbatical, and I've been working on that full time, since then. And so I'm nearing the end of that now. I actually started back up this summer teaching a couple of adjunct courses, and now I'm back full time here at Veritas. I'm now in the downhill part of my dissertation, so praise God for that.
Yeah, I was going
Uh,
to ask you, what's the update with the culmination of the whole project or the whole?
Sure. I turned in the whole document. I've been working with a mentor the last 2 years. He reads my chapters, gives me comments. We have theological discussions. And so he's helped me over the years, the last 3 years particularly. But now I've turned in my whole dissertation to the committee at where I'm going to at the end of August. They got a couple of readers who are on my committee to read it. They gave me some changes to make. They're not major changes, but I'm working on those right now. My final dissertation, the defense draft is due next Monday, actually. And
Ah,
so I'm working on my
exciting.
dissertation today, wrapping up some things, changing some things. So turn in next Monday, and then my defense will be the end of October,
Okay.
and then the committee. I don't envision major changes because there's no major changes now at this, when they read it
Right.
already. But there may be some change I need to make, and then I'll turn it in completely in November, and then be done in December. So hallelujah,
So
the end's
what
in
is, okay,
sight.
so December, you're saying, so if
Right.
everything goes to plan and there's not a ton of back and forth, then December would be when you would be conferred. They would confer the degree at that point?
That's when I would graduate, right? Yes.
Okay, now that is exciting. I
Yeah.
mean, getting goosebumps thinking about it coming to the conclusion because it's been such a long time coming, huh?
Yeah, it sure is. I've told Penny more than once. In a lot of ways, I wish I would have done it. At this point, it's when you're younger, and you have a family and you're
Yep,
busy in ministry. There's never an ideal time to
that's
get an
right.
advanced degree. There just
That's right.
isn't. And so I praise God that it worked out for me. A lot of people can't take a sabbatical, but
Yeah.
God worked it out here with Veritas for me to have an academic sabbatical. So I praise God for that. Thankful to Veritas, the leadership. And so I'll
I
be
think that
done.
what you said is such a good example encouragement to the students who are at Veritas right now, because these students who are in undergraduate and graduate and now even into our doctoral programs are sacrificing so much to consider their next degree, and you
Yes.
know that firsthand. You're in classes, you're in your dissertation, and the students that are in our undergrad program and our graduate program, they're sacrificing financially, they're sacrificing with their family time, their ministries, but they value it, they think it's important. And we are so thrilled as an organization, as an institution, to be there supporting them to fulfill the call that God has given them. It is our passion and our pleasure to be here ready and waiting when the student is on the other end thinking, I just got to get it done. There's never going to be a great time. And you just hit the nail on the head. There's just never a perfect time. So if it's a commitment and if it's something that you want to get done, we're ready for you.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Sharon. I love that model here at Veritas. It's like that. In my life, I was fortunate to be working for a college, Pensacola back for many years. I worked there for 20 years in total. I happened to be on campus anyway, so taking courses, yeah, it was a sacrifice of time and finances to do that. And there were, a lot of times whenever, my girls were playing and my wife were busy together, I just couldn't be there a lot of times. And
Mhm.
so there was that sacrifice on my part, but a lot of people are not on a Christian college campus. Now
Yeah.
they didn't have my opportunity. And
Mhm.
so Veritas works very well for them because they're able to do education online and get their degree while they still are plugged into ministry and plugged into full-time jobs, wherever they happen have families or where the case may be. So that's really one reason why I really love Veritas. There are many reasons why, but that
Mhm.
is one, is it's just so convenient for people to be able to study. Now, even where I'm going for my doctorate right now, it's all been all distance learning. I've been doing a lot of research and writing, but everything is online. And so I praise God for those opportunities available today.
Well, I'm thankful for that because I think that's going to lead you right into so the next segment is going to be your tip or advice. But before we get there, we want to give a shout out to those who are watching us live. We've got Delaney in Bland, Virginia. Hey, Delaney. We've got Michael Raker, who's watching from West Alexandria, Ohio. He's pretty faithful to our give and takes each week. We've got Denny Hastings. He's he said he's in Antigua. He's live in Antigua right
Wow.
now. So he says Mr. Edmonds was the president when I started.
Yes.
We've got Joshua Leager, who is watching from Fort Moore, Georgia. He said he's taken many classes taught by Brother Edmonds. And then we've got Penny, who is watching from Fredericksburg, right in the next room. So we're glad to have you. Hey, Penny. Thanks for hopping on today. You've got your own support group here, John. You've got your traveling groupies. So
Yeah, I was glad you all could join us today. And I'm thrilled that you have taken your time to be here to hear, how God's worked in my life and just to be part of the Veritas family. And so, yeah, I praise God that He's used me to make a difference in some lives, and He's using our students and our graduates to make a difference in people's lives as they're involved in ministries around the world.
well, I will say before you get to your tip, I'll just super quick. John, you and I had worked together since you came here, and over just the different jobs that you had here at Veritas, I was always so grateful and privileged to work with you as the leader. You always gave us a voice. You always asked our opinion. You always gave us agency. I always felt valued. There was never a time where I didn't feel like I could go to you and express we had great transparency, we were able to have differing opinions without any kind of retribution, which is a great team dynamic. The makings of a great team is transparency, and to be able to have differing opinions and still be able to be great friends and to really still have the passion that we all had as an administration. And so I just wanted to let you know, as you were coming on and talking about your time here, how I remember when you gave me the call, when you called us to tell us that you'd be stepping down, I was like, no, that's not going to work. It's not going to work for us. So, but the Lord has just the right time for such a time, and we are so grateful for your legacy and what you brought to VBC during the time you were here. And each of the leaders that have been through the time that I've been here at VBC have brought their own way of teaching and their own they bring to whatever their characteristics they bring to the table, and I glean so much from each one. So I appreciate that you're a part of what we have here at VBC is due in large part for the time that you're here. So we're so grateful for you.
Well, thank you for your kind words, Sharon. I will say, a team. I know Dr. Forrester, who you've known, who's your family, and so you've
Yes.
known him for a long time. But he teaches a class here at Veritas on biblical leadership, and I appreciate the book he uses by Gangle about biblical leadership. It's about team leadership, and really, we are a team, and God has, called us to work together. And so I praise God for the team that He brought here and has here now. And I remember that phone call I made to you as well. I remember you told me. Yeah, you told me, hey, I know that all the leaders, what you said a minute ago, all the leaders that we've had here have been here for the right reason, the right purpose, and God's worked through them. And I don't know who will be here as the next president, but I know that God will use that person as well. And indeed, God is doing that today.
Yep, exactly. We had Julia Tite just hopped on. She said she's watching from Ohio. She said this semester I have Mr. Edmonds for methods of biblical counseling. So you've got Julia
Oh, yes.
watching on from your counseling class. So,
Well,
okay, so
fantastic.
dive into your resource. We'd like to hear what you brought for the students today.
Sure. One thing obviously with the online college is you don't have a library that's readily accessible where you can just walk out and go through it. Now, I say you don't have a library. We do have a library. People often don't realize it, but it's not your traditional library where you go across, the campus to the college, go up to the sixth floor, or whatever the case may be. We don't have, 100,000, 200,000, a million books right at your disposal, right on campus. Having said that, we do have the library that you can access. You go through Populi, and there's a link at the top left-hand corner you can click. And there's also in Canvas, you have access to the Learn button there, LIRN. But on our library, all the links that we have in our library, our digital library. And by the way, if you have not been in our digital library, you just got to go to it. I mean, there are hundreds and hundreds of thousands of resources that are available. If you haven't checked it out, check them out. One that I've used a lot for several years now, that's been a blessing to me, is a place called archive.org. Now, archive.org, it's just a secular website. They have all kinds of books on there. They don't tend to have as many books published in the last 10 years, but a lot of the things our students are reading, like for my courses, theology, Bible, whatever the case may be, often they're books published back in the 20th century anyways. Archive.org has, I don't know how many millions of volumes available. And so you can go on to archive.org. You can check a book out, for a time period. And if you're not done with it, you do it again. But archive.org, I've been encouraging my students to use it. And I've heard some of them are using it, and it's been a great blessing to them. And again, you will find the website URL on our library links page. But that's been a great help. In tandem with that, something that has saved me an immeasurable amount of time as I had been working on my degree, is, today we use technology, and technology is great for making things faster. Often you have things on your screen and you think, well, I have it on my screen, but I want to I want to copy that and put it into a Word document. Well, obviously, a lot of people read print books, and I'm all for print books. I like print books, but the last few years, even if I have a print book, I scan it in and read it digitally. Not because I like the screen so much, but because I like what I can do once I have it in a PDF format.
Mm.
And if you go to the Mac, you could do a screen capture, but that's not the way to capture text the best. There is a utility you can buy through the App Store for a Mac called Text Sniper or Text Snipper. It's all one word, text and then SNIPER, Text Snipper, all run together. It's not very expensive, but you can go anywhere, any screen, any type of font on your screen. You just hit Command to click over it, and it will capture that. And you can put in the settings for Text Snipper to remove line breaks, and so when you copy into Word, the line breaks are all gone and it's just perfectly laid out there. And so that saves, even if you're a fast typist, you can copy, snip a paragraph much faster than you can type it. And so that is a great tool for me. If you use a Word, if you use a Microsoft Windows, if you use a Windows machine, it doesn't come on a computer as a part of their basic default software, but Windows has Microsoft has a download called Power Toys. It's just a whole collection of utilities that go with a Windows-based machine. And if you download Power Toys, they have what they call a text extractor. Now, it's not quite as good as Text Snipper, because the text extractor, you can't remove the line breaks when you copy it. And so if you copy, half a page, then it's going to have all the line breaks in it. Now you can run find and replace. I won't get all, it's more complicated. You can do a find and replace, remove all of them. But still, it's a lot faster doing that than trying to type it all out. So if I'm on my Mac, I use, Text Snipper. I like it better. Sherry, I've had some eye problems the last couple of years here. And so in some scenarios, the Windows-based machine is better for me. And so I use Text Extract as well. But archive.org with either Text Snipper or Text Extractor, that has saved me, because I've done so much research the last 3 years or so, it has saved me, no exaggeration, hundreds of hours with the amount of things I've snipped out. And so that's a great tool to use, a great resource, great time saver. Even if you don't use archive.org, any screen on your display, any text on your screen, I should say, any text on your screen, you can snip it and copy it and paste it. It's a great tool.
I am trying to copy those down for for the comment I'll leave afterwards so that people after this can grab it. So I will try to get those resources loaded there.
So if you Google Microsoft Power Toys, then it will take you to the download. You can download it, and it will then become part of what you're doing on the Windows based. And the Mac, there may be more snip tools I know there are more snip tools in the Apple Store, but this text snipper, I saw it. If you go to the Apple Store, they will give you, and we encourage you look at these different you know, apps. I saw this a few years ago as one of those things we encourage look at this for productivity. I have bought very few apps like that, but this app has been one of the best apps I've ever bought for productivity. It really makes snipping things on your screen as far as text
So it was
super
worth it.
easy. Yes.
Good. Yeah, that's good. And it's good to hear that kind of advice because you could buy so many apps out there and it's overwhelming to think which ones are good and which ones are not worth it. So it's helpful to
Right.
hear that information. So I added in a comment here the resources of archive.org and either text snipper or text extractor so that those watching later can grab that up. So that's exciting. I'm glad you gave that because I know those who are in the throes of research are looking for anything to make that process a little bit more seamless. So I think that's good.
Yeah,
All right.
and I will say, Sherry, for text extractor, it's Windows based only, and
Oh,
text
okay.
snipper is Mac based only.
Oh, okay. All right. Got it. I'll go in and edit that comment probably afterwards. So, all right. So now I'm getting to the real important stuff. So I like to call this segment Schmores, which is the top four. It's the Mount Rushmore of any category. So the Schmore for today, you have best desserts. So guest goes first, and you get to choose, and then you do your first choice, and I'll do my first choice, and we'll go back and forth, and then we'll post the poll afterwards, and we'll see how we do. So, what is your number one choice for best dessert?
Number one is sugar cookie, but it's not just any sugar cookie, it's Wilton sugar cookie. You got to
Is
make
it?
them, roll them out like a quarter-inch thick, and no icing on them. They go with anything. They go with ice cream, they go with coffee, tea. It's just
Are
a
these
good.
at the store? They're like store bought, and then
No, you
you,
have to make them. They're homemade. Wilton cake. You probably heard of Wilton cake decorating things.
yeah.
Wilton makes a lot of things for cakes and baking. Wilton has a recipe for just a classic sugar cookie. And it's the
Okay.
Wilton sugar cookie. Penny has made it for me many times in our life.
I was
Uh,
gonna say, Penny, did you see that? I'm sure you saw that coming. I'm sure you knew that was gonna be number one for him. You probably knew his list right off the bat. So, okay, so Wilton in particular, sugar cookie is number one. And was that something that you had growing up, or did you just as an adult
no,
start liking
not that exact recipe. I don't know if I had that. I had things that tasted similar to that. My mom made them, my grandma made them. But this one is by far my favorite recipe.
it? Okay. All right, so I've got it lodged here. I've got it sugar cookie Wilton, Wilton sugar cookie. My first one, I thought you were gonna take it, and because I'm not sure exactly how you feel about it, but my top number one is brownies. I felt like
Okay.
that was gonna be a very good dessert. Now, I am curious when you eat, do you like brownies?
I do, yes.
Okay, when you eat brownies, are you crust kind of guy or no crust?
I don't care either way. I like them however they are.
Okay, because you're just much better person than most of us. So I expected some kind of really diplomatic answer than that. But there are these brownie pans you can buy that put crust all over them. I don't love the crust. I want the middle. I want the no crust. Anybody watching this, are you crust or no crust? Because there are these pans you can buy, and I was like, why would anybody want that? Why does that exist? I don't love the crust at all, and I certainly don't want it on every single piece. So
That's funny.
anyway, my first take is brownies, and of course, some kind of cream or ice cream or whipped cream or something like that on there. So, all right,
Yes.
what's number two for you?
Number two is Hershey's Cookbook. It's another homemade recipe. It's a chocolate marble cheesecake. The
Oh,
reason this is my favorite, I didn't have it growing up, but we bought this cookbook when we first got married. We've used it a lot since then, obviously. But I like cheesecake a lot. It depends on the brand, what it is. Nonetheless, this was a good cheesecake, chocolate marble, chocolate crust. Um, And Penny made it for me a lot when we first got married. So it has a lot of nostalgic value as well as just taste value. It's a good
Right.
cheesecake. Matter of fact, Penny made it so much. I finally said, "Hey," because she didn't like the cake. She made it just for me. And
Oh,
here we have no kids yet. It's just Penny and me. And
yeah.
so I always end up eating the whole thing. So I said, "Hey,
You're
I
like,
like
okay,
it
hold
tasted,
up.
but let's quit making it because I'm going to be 300 pounds." So, but it's still I like the cheesecake. It is a good cheesecake.
Yeah, that does sound good. And I like cheesecake fine, but a chocolate marble. And I will say doing some cooking, some baking, marbling can be challenging because if
Yes.
you mix it too much, it just blurs in and it's not as pretty. So marbling, if she's mastered it, good for you, Penny. Good for you. So my number two is cinnamon rolls. Now, I don't know
Oh
if people
yes.
would classify this to be a full dessert or a breakfast item. I don't even care because I don't really eat many sweets now, but when I did, this was, I mean, a good cinnamon roll. In fact, that's what my girls choose more often than not for their birthdays. They want
All
a
right.
cinnamon roll, and we'll just put a candle right in there with the icing and everything. But rather than a cake, they would rather have a cinnamon roll. And I will let you in on a little secret. I don't make them from scratch. These are just going to be from the can, but they're so good. Oh, I do love a good cinnamon roll.
Yeah, I
Those
agree with you,
who do
Sherry.
it homemade, do it upright, and I do like it, but it's
Right.
too fussy for me, so I don't do it.
Yes. I agree. Those are great.
All right, what's your number three?
Number three is ice cream. That's just a classic. Everybody, there's a reason
Yes.
they say you scream, ice cream. We all scream for ice cream. I mean,
Yep.
hey, everybody, who doesn't like ice cream? I like ice cream, particularly vanilla with hot fudge
I
and
knew I was going to
peanuts.
ask you what your favorite flavor was, and then I was assuming it would be like, no, I like them all. So I'm glad that you honed in on vanilla
So,
with hot fudge.
vanilla ice cream, hot fudge, peanuts. It's very reminiscent of a Buster Bar back when I was a kid at Dairy Queen, or now you can buy Buster Bar Parfait. But yeah, that I like a lot of kinds of ice cream, but just vanilla is just a good goes with again. Like it's kind of like my sugar cookie. I guess I'm kind of vanilla kind of guy.
You like a very
Vanilla
classic. I don't say vanilla, we say classic, very
classic.
sophisticated. Yes.
Exactly right. Classic goes with anything.
Do you put nuts on anything? Or you like nuts or no?
Peanuts. I like
Yeah.
peanuts.
Yeah, I do too. I like the crunch for
Yeah,
sure.
I do too.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that was your number three. My number three is lemon bars. Now, I realize I might lose it here. I realize I might lose the poll for this one in particular because lemon is very divisive. People love lemon or they hate lemon. There's usually very few people that are in between. So
Right. Yes.
if you love, I love a lemon dessert. I love it. Sometimes even the tartar, the better. I will make a lemon meringue pie. I probably should have even said that, but a sugar-free lemon meringue pie I can do up real nice, and it is very good. And it's very
Yes.
tart, and you can put some cream on it to cut the tart, but it's very good. So I love lemon flavor
Well, I'm
stuff.
with you on that, Sherry. My wife has made me many lemon bars over the years, and here's the problem. You know I like sweets a lot, and
Yeah.
so you already know that. And so my problem is limiting it to four. I mean, how can I just have four favorites on this? But lemon bars would be right at the top for me as well.
Yeah. 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 It's good. All right. What's your number four?
Yeah, my fourth one again, it's hard to limit this. There, I can give you 20 things I like a lot for desserts. But nonetheless, the last one I'm going to give you is it's a peanut butter cookie sandwich. Let me explain it to you. It's homemade. My wife has made them many times throughout our marriage. Our girls loved them when they were growing up. They freeze well, so you can throw them in the freezer, get them out and eat them. But you make regular peanut butter cookies, which again, peanut butter cookies are just great by themselves.
Sure.
But this is a whole other level, Sherry, because you
Okay.
take these two cookies and make a peanut butter filling that is just it's a peanut butter filling that's rich. You spread it on one cookie, put another cookie on there. So now you got two cookies with this delicious, delectable, peanut butter filling. I tell
Okay.
you, I you could eat six of them in no time, so they're dangerous.
So she can only make so many, or else you're just gonna eat them all. So it's a peanut butter cookie with
Right.
peanut butter filling. Do you
Right,
know what the
yes.
filling's made of? Peanut butter plus sugar plus
Oh,
what?
it's peanut butter, sugar. Penny could tell you. I can't remember.
Probably some kind of
Uh,
cream.
yeah, something in there. And they freeze well, so
Yeah,
I can put some if they make it that long. Put them in the freezer
yeah,
and then have them
good.
for the next couple of days.
That does sound good. It sounds very rich. I imagine that those are very delicious, though. I can see why the girls would like that.
Yes.
Okay, my last one again is probably kind of controversial because it may not be strictly a dessert, but my favorite sweet when I was eating sweets were donuts. I
Oh,
love
yes.
donuts, and I would eat them more after a meal than I would have them at breakfast. I was never a
Right.
breakfasty type sweet type person, but if I had, I love a maple donut. I love a toasted coconut. Are you a coconut guy? I can't remember.
I do, yes.
Yeah.
Another one I can give you is coconut cream pie. That's right at the
Yeah.
top there too.
Yeah. Yes. Very good. I love
Yeah.
a good donut. I used to do those. I used to go get a bunch of donut holes. We would plow through tons of donut holes and it was never good for us, but they were
Right.
so delicious. They were so delicious. So I get that donuts may not be a typical dessert, but that was the sweet that I could think of that I really would. I never had to turn it. I never turned it down. I loved a good donut after we were eating a meal. So
Now here's the question for you, Sherry. When it
yeah.
comes to donuts, would you, if you buy them, like a national chain, would you like Krispy Kreme or Dunkin' Donuts?
Okay, so now you've gotten it, you've gone there. Okay, I will say Dunkin' Donuts, I like their flavored donuts better. I do love glazed at Krispy Kreme. So like if I'm going to get a maple or I'm going to get a blueberry or something, I'm going to get it at Dunkin'. But let me tell you this, John, don't count out the Walmart brand sleeve of 12 donuts because it's dynamite.
Right,
Okay,
yes.
this is the real resource, y'all. This is the real resource, students. If you're listening, Veritas family, the real resources are at the end where you can get the best donuts and the best desserts. So
Well,
we tried them out. We lived right next to a Walmart. We grabbed some up and they were so good. So I wouldn't count it out. But what about you?
yeah, I tell you, when I hear you say like Dunkin', my mind goes to, oh, how the mighty have fallen. To me,
The respect has gone.
to me, Dunkin' Donuts is as far as the donuts are like a waste of calories. I like Krispy Kreme, hands down better.
Just across the board.
Yes, yes,
Got it.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinion. We'll agree to
That's,
disagree. We already talked about our
that's right.
transparency
We're a
and our
team.
team. We're a team. We're allowed to disagree. But I again, I don't do any of these anymore. I wish, I mean, I just haven't had any of this stuff in years. But when I was going and having them, we would pick some up. We'd pick up a dozen and go home, and it just, before you know it, they're all gone. Especially Krispy
Correct.
Kremes, though. Those
Yeah.
ones, to be fair, you can plow through, I mean, embarrassingly amount of those before you realize that you should probably not have done that. So
Yeah, you're exactly right.
they're so lightweight.
Yes.
All right, well, we wrapped it up today. So let me recap your top four. So you have Wilton sugar cookie for number one. Number two, Hershey's chocolate marble cheesecake. Yum. Number three, ice cream. Can't go wrong with that. And number four, peanut butter cookie sandwich. Did I get it right?
You got it.
Okay, all right. So we're going to hop off here. Thank you so much for coming and being a guest here today. We have enjoyed having the back and forth and the resources that you've given the students. You can check the comment that I left afterwards and make sure that I got it all correct, and I'll update some of those versus Mac and PC. But thanks so much for coming on. It was really fun and it was good to see you. We haven't been able to chat in a while.
Yeah, my pleasure. Great to be with you. And thanks again to all those that came. Thanks for spending your time with us. It was a great time today.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.